Of course, there's no way to know how it's going to end up, but as of now, Gran Turismo Sport ain't doing so good in North American sales. There's a whole heck of a heap of people on internet forums bashing it, blah blah blah, the usual. But the overall, which is more of what counts than the individual, the overall ain't even looking all that good. There's a lot of different statistics for a lot of different sites, but the general trend of them is GT Sport didn't exactly do quite as good as the other GT games in North America. And I guess some people didn't expect this, but I mean, come on, folks. Just looking at the car count alone, I think it's pretty obvious why some Americans were burnt out. GT6 had 1,200 cars. Even though Polyphony Digital is not an American company, they had more American cars than any other game. Now, they, I mean, just I know Infiniti counted as American GT6 as well, but I mean, when it's one of the cotton picking seven, and one of them was added later on, GT's stretching it a bit. There's basically nothing American really in the game, when half of it's Vision Gran Turismo, not even real. I mean, just think about it in perspective. Ford has the usual things you expect: a Mustang that every game has, and then variations of that, and then a Focus that every game has, and then variations of that, and then it's like the same for every other brand as well. There's nothing new it's bringing to the table anymore. And really, what's new in terms of gameplay is beatable. Some people don't like it, and that's overall negative in sales. This game is just, it was destined to fail in America. I don't really know what they were thinking with this. Even GT6, for Jiminy Cricket's sake, that just by circumstances was destined to fail. Not the game itself, the circumstances surrounding it. It was on an old system that just then became old, and it came out in, like, even the old system was getting good games back then. Like, it came out about the same time as Grand Theft Auto 5. Same system, but GTA 5 sold what, like 4 times more games on that same system? Even when both of the games were on the quote unquote old system back then. And then now PS4 is getting like the half or whatever, the Pro, and it's still selling terrible. It pretty much has a new system and it's still failing. The main reason I'm making this is to say this does not really need to happen. I ain't saying GT Sport in general. I mean, in my opinion, and I'm thinking more and more opinion too, is this game probably shouldn't have happened. They should have just gone with 7. But I'm not even looking at that aspect. I'm just looking at how they ended up making GT Sport aspect. For one, the things they branded were racing side by side, become a real race car driver, blah blah blah. And realistically, in America, or North America, definitely USA, and USA is the bulk of the sales in North America. If you want to become a race car driver, your odds are actually a lot better just like going up like kart in there. You have to have money to do so, but realistically, you have to have money too if you want to do it in sport. Because you have to have a wheel, and a relatively good wheel, and enough time to be able to dedicate time to practicing and all that, which means that you basically have to either not work, have enough money to avoid working, or be able to take off work and still be able to afford it. Which either way, and it's sort of kind of you can't be in a. You need to have pretty good circumstances to do that. What I'm saying is the main appeal of GT Sports just has no appeal to America really. GT6, on the other hand, had like every American type of thing to imagine. There was trucks, there was NASCARs, there was classic American cars, there was new state of the art muscle cars. Remember when GT5 got the update with the Corvette C7 in it, and that I think might have been the only PlayStation 3 game with a Corvette C7 in it? It's like, wow. It's like, and then now the Corvette C7 is the same Corvette C7. They didn't put the Z06 in it. They didn't put the Stingray in it, or like the convertible, whatever that's called. They they didn't change anything around. Basically, all they did was take stuff out. The only real new American thing is the Fittipaldi and rally cars, I guess too. But I mean, even that, America's not that interested in rally. We're not. We have X Games. They added Gymkhana for kind of a shoehorn thing, and it ain't even really Gymkhana because you go faster not drifting. Just, it's kind of sad that the last two Gran Turismos were just. There was no way they were going to do all that good. And PD still hasn't figured this out yet. At least this one's doing relatively good in other countries, but here at least, as in America, it's not looking so good, folks. It's not looking so good. For future games, I think they're just gonna have to give up on real racing simulator, real driving simulator. We all know it ain't the best one anymore. They tried with sport and they didn't necessarily fail, but they didn't exactly succeed either. I don't necessarily think anyone necessarily says that GT Sport is the best state of the art, super, mega, ultra realistic game ever made. We said that with GT1, sure, because it was the only one. But by GT5 or so, it was pretty cotton-picking obvious GT's not that anymore. What made GT was, like, the craziness of it all. You could race a Dodge Ram against a Saleen S7 against a NASCAR. American supercar, American pickup truck, American race car, all together, and they were all relatively competitive. Those about 560 performance went on a relatively small track, so that way the Saleen was good all around. The Ram had the acceleration, and the NASCAR had the handling because the aerodynamics were actually pretty cotton-picking close in times. I was slightly faster in the Ram, but different story. What I'm saying is this: now you have race a rally car against a rally car, race a Ford Mustang against a Chevy Corvette, race a car that doesn't exist against itself. You can't even race it against other cars that doesn't exist. Oh, Jiminy Cricket. Again, like I said in every other video, GT Sport, what it does is fine. It's, dare I say, the best out there for what it does. Just what it does is less than, dare I say, any other game. It has both extremes in the same game, and that ain't necessarily a good thing. GT6, it didn't necessarily do one thing great. It just had a lot there. Even what it had there wasn't necessarily great, it was just a lot. And I think that's honestly the way to go for future. I know there's the old saying quality over quantity, but it's not the case here, is it, folks? It's really just not the case. I mean, halfway I'm making this video because I'm just saying I want to drive a Dodge Ram again on the PlayStation 4, but I mean, the other half of it is just the life expectancy of the Gran Turismo franchise in general. America is one of its best sellers, and if it doesn't work here, then that's going to hurt it big time. And it shouldn't be all that expensive to make it work here. Keep a NASCAR license. Not that many other countries are going to care, but it's going to be probably the most popular thing in North America. If you go to the North American region now lobbying GT6, I guarantee at least a third of them will have to do with NASCAR. There hasn't been a new NASCAR added since 2013. And it's still the most popular thing, really, for Americans in general and online. And it's not that expensive to have a NASCAR license, I really don't think. Forza has it. There's NASCAR games now that don't even sell all that good, but yet they still exist. Come on. It's not that hard. And then finally, another thing too is just, is it that hard to keep around classic car licenses for like brands that don't even exist? Wouldn't it be almost free to have a Plymouth Superbird in the game? Plymouth doesn't exist anymore. Chrysler doesn't even really exist anymore. It's owned by Fiat. So wouldn't that basically mean a Plymouth would be free? Or darn near close to it? Because I don't really think Fiat necessarily wants money from a failed former brand. I mean, maybe they get a little bit from contracts and stuff, but still. There's tons more examples out there too, I'm sure. Like Chevy has the failed like Hummer and stuff. There aren't any Hummers in GT, but still, that's kind of a controversial car enough where that would be popular. And then Ford has Mercury, and then blah blah blah. Just it's not that hard to make a game sell well in America. I mean, look at just look at Need for Speed. Nobody's like the last two Need for Speed games. For Jiminy Cricket, IGN, which is kind of the cliche as they give high ratings, gave the newest Need for Speed game a 5.9. And I bet it's outselling GT in America. I know Need for Speed is an American game, but I mean, Jiminy Cricket, man. I don't really think Polyphony Digital wants to be beaten by a. They haven't even made a good. Need for Speed hasn't even made a groundbreaking game since, like, Carbon or something like that. PS3, about the only thing good were remakes of old games, like Most Wanted remake of, like, the 2005, and then the Hot Pursuit remake, and then the PS4's had nothing so far. I'm not necessarily saying GT is necessarily remake an old game. I'm just saying have some aspects of an old game in the new game, and not just throw one thing in. This Shelby's gonna be forgotten within a few months, realistically. There needs to be, like, a lot of stuff for it to have anything. Granted, we're supposed to get 50 cars in the next coming months, but who knows how many of them are actually gonna be popular. I bet at least 25 of them will either be a race car in a class we already have, or a Vision Gran Turismo that just races themselves. That's just no. I know this has kind of been leading to no particular solution here because realistically, this isn't going to change a thing. But I still feel like it's just worth saying that there didn't have to be that much more effort and money put in to get a lot more money and effort out. Keep stuff that works. Don't throw away stuff that works. I ain't even necessarily saying the whole game. Just, I mean, NASCAR. Is that too much to ask? Can anyone here actually even name the studio that makes the NASCAR games anymore? It's like some number or something irrelevant that I don't even know what it is anymore. It was EA at one point, and then EA didn't care anymore because they couldn't do microtransactions as much with NASCARs because the old drivers had different cars, so it didn't really work putting them in because then they had to model their cars and then blah blah blah. So EA didn't care anymore, and then it went to some like youth something I can't even say, and then NASCAR should not be doing better than GT. Need for Speed has been games should not be doing better than GT. Polyphony Digital needs to step their game up in America, and they don't even have to put in that much effort to do it. Come on now. Come on. RAM would help. NASCAR would help even more. Neither of those I would think are that hard to get. And maybe Jeeps.